Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Beyond the Cage. I'm your host, Jim Gramm. I'm joined by Colin Camper and Billy Brant. On today's show, of course, we're going to preview the UFC's first forte into Croatia, UFC Zagreb, this Sunday, April 10th on Fox Sports 1. We're, of course, going to talk about the big news. It's going to be Nate and then Connor again at UFC 200, followed by interim title fight. And speaking of interim title fights, one was just announced as John Jones will be taking on Ovince St. Preux following a knee injury to current light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. And also we got some news to share along, of course, with Glory and kickboxing as well. Once again, I'm your host, Jim Gramm. You can follow me on Twitter at Jim Gramm. He runs our Facebook page, Colin Camper. How's it going today, Colin?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. Long weekend.
And Billy Brant is back in the studio with us. You can follow him on Twitter at WBrant21. How's it going, Billy?
All right, man. I'm feeling comfortable in this third chair now, but I'll work my way back to the top.
All right, and speaking of our Facebook page, of course, hopefully you've seen it. I shared it to everybody I possibly knew. We're trying to get to 500 likes. We're 47 away.
We're getting there.
To 500.
Pretty close, yeah.
47. When we do, I'm giving away like, 9, 10 photos? A lot of photos. And, of course, the 500 likes means that's when the contest will start. It technically does not count as an entry because it goes against the Facebook policy, just in case you're wondering. So once we get 500, I will immediately announce a contest. It's going to be a lot similar to other ones where, you either ask a fan question, you participate in a, I guess it's now DraftKings because counter move's not a thing anymore. DraftKings or UFC Pick'em contest or some type of survey. We'll figure something out so you'll be able to enter and possibly win some great, cool signed pictures there. And of course, we just added, I just got this in, a Dwayne Bang Ludwig signed photo. So we have that one
crispy
coming as well. So he's
get up there to 500.
That's when he had those weird frosted tips. I don't know. So we're close.
Peanut
so
butter.
Please like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage podcast. Speaking of the Glory news we were talking about, I got a chance to chat with Dustin Jacoby. It was just announced he's going to be fighting for the Glory middleweight championship coming out in May against Simon Marcus. It's technically in Ontario, California, just outside of Los Angeles, where the fight will take place. And of course, Dustin Jacoby, we covered him at Glory 27 as well as Simon Marcus. So this is going to be a really big fight. In fact, Glory has announced that their pre-sale tickets have already sold out for this event in LA. So if you're planning on, if you're in the LA area or planning on flying in to see Glory, once general pre-sale starts, you want to try to get them quick because I believe that arena in Ontario seats like 8,000 or so. So there's not that many seats. And if the pre-sale tickets already sold out, that's a really good sign that this is going to be a nice crowd there to see Marcus and Jacoby.
How great is it kind of like looking back to when we start talking about Glory, just how it keeps growing and keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the excitement for this fight is so real. I love it.
Yeah, no, it's nice because we have a lot of friends, basically, kind of like of the show, over in Glory. After that recent event, talking to Tim Hughes, John Franklin, and it's nice to speak to them about how well they're growing, and then just to see this happen like almost 2 events right after, just such a big deal. So I'm looking forward to the next fight announcement as well because they got this next card coming up in 2 weeks.
Right, of course, they still got some stuff to announce. They announced they're going to have a light heavyweight tournament and they're also yet to announce the co-main event for Glory 30 in Los Angeles coming up in May. And also, we're 12 days from Glory 29, and they have not announced the 4th participant in the heavyweight tournament yet. It's kind of getting me worried that maybe it's not going to be someone that good because I feel like
they're going to Roy Jones Jr. it, man.
Any fun guesses?
Wouldn't it be funny if Verhoeven goes in his own tournament just to spice things up?
I feel like that's how a tournament should work because if a champ loses in the tournament, I mean, that's how you played Smash Brothers back in the day. You had the house champ play the 16-man.
I don't know. We'll see. So hopefully, obviously, I'm assuming he'll get announced sometime this week, you would think, right? I mean,
no, I think we won't know till the day of the event.
Wild card.
And with it being so close, I have a feeling it's probably going to be somebody from Europe. I don't think they're going to ship someone in that has to fly as much as we'd love it to be Xavier Vigny.
Right.
It's probably going to be a European that can easily make the flight to Copenhagen.
Maybe it is. Maybe they're having visa issues right now. Maybe that's why they haven't really announced. Could be.
It's weird that they send it all out like that with just the 3. It really kind of
the 4th
really
wasn't ready to go.
So it has to be some sort of issue where they're looking for a fill-in. So you're
They
probably
had
right
to
on
get
that
names
end.
out there to start selling. So who knows? I mean, It could be anyone. Regardless, it's going to be pretty good.
Now, they do have 2 other heavyweights on their super fight series. That's Kaepernick and Masny. There could be a chance just one of those guys just moves up.
Probably.
I'm assuming that bout might have been like a tournament fill-in if one guy was unable to go anyways. So there's a real possibility one of those guys just might fill in that spot.
Where's Pat Barry at? Is he still out?
I think he officially retired.
What if they bring Pat Barry in?
He took how many Glory fights? 1 or 2? Was he in
Yeah, Tyrone Spong beat him in 1. I know for sure.
I don't know. They need someone, but it will probably just be a last-minute fill and pull him up. But either way, that's going to be a heavyweight tournament. It's going to be nasty.
All right, speaking of, almost last-minute replacements, 3 weeks here for Ovince St. Preux as he gets the nod to take on John Jones for the main event of UFC 197 coming up on April 23rd on pay-per-view. The champion, Daniel Cormier, had to pull out due to a leg injury. He's never had to pull out of a fight before, so very rare for the former Olympic wrestler. And the obvious choice was Rumble Johnson, but apparently not too long ago he had some sort of dental surgery, and they're worried about, 1, him holding in a mouthpiece, and 2, if you just had dental surgery, your best option is probably not going to go into a cage where another guy's going to punch you directly in the jaw. That would kind of undo what you just did. So unfortunately for Anthony Johnson, maybe picked the wrong time to get that dental surgery, and with a lot of other light heavyweights booked, they ended up going with OSP.
I see them dental records, man. All right, like the birth certificate with Obama, that thing's just gonna be fading into existence. All right, look, Black Zillions 3 days ago, before this fight announcement, were on Twitter saying Anthony Johnson's ready to fill in for John Jones in case Jones can't make it to the fight for whatever reason after that incident with the cop. You know, Anthony Johnson's ready to get his rematch against Cormier. Suddenly Cormier's injured out, and Johnson's like, I had like a fill-in done and everything.
Yeah, but I seen the other side of the argument too. It makes sense. Like, he could see him say that, and then he sees John Jones, gets resolved, he's still fighting, thinks nothing's going to happen, and gets some work done. Like, it makes equal sense that.
I mean, I still love Rumble, and I ain't going to fault him for definitely he could have just flat out said, no, I ain't just going to take the fight on short notice. I'm just saying, like, no, like 3 days before you were saying you're ready to go, and then it just seems weird. Just like suddenly, it's like
it hurts for the fans. But big up on John Jones for realizing in the past how he's kind of.
Yeah, I was surprised Jones actually stuck with it. Because every time it's happened to him, like twice now, he said like, no, I'll hold off.
Yeah, someone was actually talking to me on Twitter about that when I put out like, hopefully it's Rumble, because it was a day or two before they announced that it was OSP, and he was like, yeah, but Jones didn't do the thing for 151. I was like, yeah, but that was 3 days. This is 3 weeks. Right. Add in, he hasn't fought for over a year.
That's what
you have a lot more. Yeah, you have a lot more reasons for him taking an opponent on short notice as to oppose the 151. I'm still not excusing what he did at 151. I'm just saying, if you were gonna, it's one thing to deny a fight on 3 days, but it's another thing on 3 weeks and the occurrences that have gone on with him outside the cage. So I thought no matter who it was, he was gonna say yes to. And for Anthony Johnson, I think it is legitimate, because we've seen Dana White come out and put people on blast for saying no when it's not legitimate reasons. And Dana White seemed like kind of pissed that he couldn't put Rumble Johnson there, and he didn't put Rumble on blast. So that makes me think it was a relatively
I think probably what it was,
unsafe thing to put him in there. So
he probably did have dental surgery, but he's probably more willing to bite down on the mouthpiece and fight Cormier with a little bit, of tooth work done, rather than fight Jones, who's someone he hasn't fought yet. That's a different puzzle to him. Johnson, I mean, I'm just talking out my butt here, but he probably thinks he already knows what the Cormier fight would bring. He's like, okay, if I get some dental work done, I'll still be good to take on Cormier. This guy isn't sitting here like Jones throwing all kinds of weird stuff where I got to I don't know. I'm not a fighter. I don't care about anything right now because I wish it was Mark Hunt who got the fill-in. But hey,
I mean, that was more talk. There's no way they would have took any sort of heavyweight fight. It never had to have crossed anyone's mind. They wouldn't do that.
Maybe.
I don't know. If they would have picked a heavyweight, I think they would have picked one that's not very good.
Fabricio Verdun.
Yeah. They would have picked like Matt Mitrione.
They would have brought Rochehold back.
Hear me out. What if Cormier pulled out, and so they gave him Cain Velasquez, his partner, and everything just to make it heavy.
And then Cain Velasquez pulls out 3 days before.
If John Jones did anything to come back and win the fans over, that'd be it.
Hey, look, I'm just happy Jones took the fight, because I've been itching for a John Jones fight, And so I'm just kind of glad we still get to see him in 3 weeks rather than like wait from. It's like, oh, I'll just wait till 200 to fight Cormier. Like that would have killed me.
And
Wait another 4
he
months.
fights a guy who's maybe the closest to him athletically and also the closest to him reach-wise. I mean, I know 4 inches seems still like a lot, but compared to when you're talking about someone that has an 84-inch reach to say, hey, this guy's only 4 inches shorter than you, I'm pretty sure that's about the closest it's maybe ever been next to Alexander Gustafsson.
I mean, OSP isn't a slouch. I mean,
this is a guy who legitimately has one-shot knockout power. Of course, the odds are against him, not on short notice, the caliber of John Jones and the guys he's already beat, but it's an opponent that should make this fight exciting. It's not someone that's a boring guy that can stall out. It's a guy that should try to push the pace and get in John Jones' face. But it still may end up with him getting knocked out, but it does make for an exciting main event, I think.
OSP's sick. He's really good. He's had some weird points in UFC where some fans are like, because he had a lot of hype coming in, but he still had some good finishes. But I think 2 big interesting things I'm interested on is 1, it's going to be weird seeing Jones not in a title fight. 2, is he still
a title fight?
Well,
a
real title fight?
I think the reason they made it an interim title is because it would have been weird to see John Jones in a 3-round fight because Demetrius Johnson might have.
They probably still would have made it a 5-round.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, would they just set the precedent that Conor versus Nate a non?
That's where the McGregor belt.
Just to talk about it for a second, is it a little annoying as a hardcore fan how they keep throwing interim titles out
and
there?
Rematches? I'm tired of all of it. I'm tired of all of it. It stalls all the stuff going on.
It means nothing. It's just more to like sell to people. It's a title fight.
Well, I remember back in the day when an interim belt was like interesting with like the welterweight ones that were getting.
It was usually someone was going to be injured for a while, or someone.
It was when it was needed.
Heavyweight was like the one I feel like
it wasn't like
one that was needed.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't because a champion can't fight or contender. Then they're like, well, it's an interim now.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I'm tired more of the rematches.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because if John Jones wins, whoever they put in, he was going to fight Cormier next. So it's irrelevant, but they throwing in there for the casual fans to see. Oh, even though they hear interim, it's still a title. Somebody gets a belt around their waist at the end.
The problem with the fight is, and we'll break it down more in the future, but
hold up. That's a duck on his bicep right there. Look at that. Look at that tattoo.
Oh, OSP's?
Yeah. Anyway,
not to mention his Omega brand.
Yeah. No, the problem is in this fight, as much as I like OSP, I just don't see him be that competitive. I mean, you've seen guys repetitively out wrestle him and out take him down, whatever. I think OSP has a solid round in this fight. The first round's competitive. After that, I see with classic Jones fight, Jones stalls it out, wears him out, and submits him.
I feel like Jones is going to come out. He's like, I've been out for a while. I got something to prove. Like K-Flow was saying, he just spent a couple of days in jail. He's been angry. He's kind of
2 days in that holding cell really changed John
that's
Jones.
more he spent in
I was about to say, that's more than he spent in rehab.
When that dude lives that wild and free, 2 days is a very long time. So
no, yeah.
We'll see. What if we come out and we see John Jones with knockout power?
Yeah, right. It's just, there's no way. I see classic a Jones fight. I see OSP just gassing after the first and not offering up much more.
Subbed.
Yeah, it's just I don't see anything besides that happening unless that first round he gets one lucky shot. But up until now, Jones' chin has been untested.
All right, as we mentioned, Nate McGregor. Yeah, I guess it is Nate
Might
versus
as well
McGregor.
be.
There we go.
They'll always be together
Nate
now.
Diaz versus Conor McGregor 2 will be the main event of UFC 200. It will be at welterweight, not 155 pounds. And the co-main event, as of right now, will be Frankie Edgar against Jose Aldo for the second time for the interim featherweight championship, with the winner to face Conor McGregor at some point later in 2016. Cain Velasquez versus Travis Brown is also supposed to be on the card. Rumor has it we could see a Robbie Lawler, and now with this recent injury to Daniel Cormier, could even be a chance we see Cormier Jones OSP winner on the 200 card, potentially, depending on how this goes in a couple weeks.
They just said he's out till August, September.
I thought they said he was only out 4 to 6 weeks.
I just saw something
August
said
just came
August,
out
September.
today.
Yeah, August, September. Just came out recently.
They moved it further.
Just came out.
Okay, all right.
But don't push off Rumble maybe still. If Jones gets a quick turnaround and Rumble gets that fight, they'll still push
Would that
it.
be the first interim title defense?
In light heavyweight history?
Yeah.
Possibly, because technically Barao, I think, has the most, because it took him a while before they made him the actual bantamweight champion.
No, didn't it?
I thought that was
wasn't DC's a defense technically?
No, it's not an interim belt. It's the official belt.
Oh, it is official now.
Because he was stripped of the title. They didn't call it an interim. But yeah, as far as I know, I think Renan Barao is probably one of the few interim champions to actually defend their belt. So
Basically
but
a
since he
champ at that
became
point.
because he eventually became the bantamweight champion, to me it's all the same run because the champion never came back until, well, we have the poster behind us. So
Yeah.
Should Conor Nate be an interim for welter? I mean,
at this point, Robbie ain't
it'd be
fighting
weird
much.
if Robbie fought on that card where they're fighting for his interim title.
let's hope not.
And neither ever just face Robbie though.
All right. Well, that's what's with UFC 200. At first, I was against the Nate Conor rematch, but with this interim bout between Aldo and Edgar, I don't love it, but I get it, and I'm glad at least something's being done for the division because they're basically saying, "All right, Conor, we shouldn't have gave you this fight, but we're going to give it to you because you wouldn't stop talking about it. We're giving you to shut you up. If you lose,
favor turned in.
There's no more talk about you jumping up and fighting everybody anymore. And then if you win, all right, you get that loss back. Let's handle the business at 45, and then we can talk about, another super fight potential with whoever the champion is at 155 pounds, if it still is Rafael dos Anjos.
You want to see that fight anymore?
I don't know. I question in my head a lot if the Conor dos Santos fight happened. I mean, Conor did succeed really well in that first round. Could dos Anjos have took it? But the reason I don't like this could be a career killer. I know they're trying to go to the casual whatever, and you think, oh, if Conor gets this one back, it's all back. All the talk's back. But if Conor loses this one, everyone's like, yeah, he's good. Nate has his number.
Right.
There's always Nate has his number out there. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
And you can preach 170 all you want, but
Because here's one thing that I just, and this is not me just being like a nut hugger for Conor McGregor. It's just like if McGregor beat Diaz, everyone would be like, well, you beat him on like 2 weeks' notice. But since Diaz beat him, everyone's like, oh, it's just his number. It's just his heel. He's not going to ever beat Diaz kind of thing. So I'm like, I understand Diaz has numerous advantages over Conor McGregor. Size, reach, height, probably boxing. I mean, there's especially jiu-jitsu, which we don't have to speak about. There's a lot of advantages he has over McGregor. But if it went the other way, everyone would have just called it a fluke. But instead, everyone just called it a technical beatdown. I'm just like, this full camp fight, I feel like will actually really put the answer on it. And I mean, I still feel like it's a 50-50 fight either way. Nate Diaz isn't a slouch. And clearly, now that he's been in there and you see fighters who go into rematches after they beat a guy, you kind of already know what it's like to be in that ring with that person. You kind of already been on that stage with that person. And now for Nate, who already been in the limelight of the biggest fight of his career, now this is just another one for him. So it's like there's no pressure in there whatsoever. And it's just like he kind of going to come out and just Nate Diaz.
And I think he actually can fight better because I still think that one of the reasons his face looks so busted up for that fight, he was still healing from that Michael Johnson fight.
I mean,
this fight, he should
saying,
be.
so.
He should be. His face should look a little better entering this one, and I don't think that he will wear those punches as much to Conor. And I still think even if it goes longer, if Conor doesn't kind of overthrow as he admits that he did, I still think that helps Nate Diaz because we know how good at cardio he is. Well, not to mention he's not going to have to cut any weight for this one. A longer fight, I still think favors Nate Diaz.
Well, the problem with the fight for Nate Diaz for Conor is just like we've seen that he struggles with guys who can kind of keep the reach in the boxing with him. When we watched him fight Max Holloway, even though he had an injured knee, even before that, he's kind of keeping up with him. But the problem that we see Conor McGregor having is like when someone comes in kind of with an equal boxing talent with the footwork and kind of able to avoid that shot
and can take a punch.
Can take a
That's
punch
huge.
and just keep that
gotta
range
be able
going.
to take a punch.
The problem that hits for McGregor is like now it becomes not so much, oh, when does he land his shot? It's just like how long can he put out and implement his own game plan long enough to win rounds. The problem is the Diaz brothers are really, really, really good at volume.
Well, I think a real lot of it, Nate called out exactly. It's mental. When you watch a lot of Conor's wins, I think Aldo was his one fight where the dude was like clean out cold. The rest of them, they sort of broke. He's tagging them up, he's landing, and then they go down. Nate's not going to break mentally. No matter what you throw at him, he's going to keep coming. We've seen that in the first fight. Conor landed his big shots. The only edge I think Conor gets in this fight is as much as people want to point that he overthrew or he overexerted himself and that's why he gassed because he was trying to get an early knock. He didn't adjust to that size that well. He put on a lot of muscle quickly.
Right.
People aren't factoring that in enough.
And Nate Diaz cuts down. That too. And that's the thing. Is Nate Diaz cuts down, so automatically Nate Diaz he's a big guy. It's the biggest guy Conor McGregor is probably ever going to face in his career entirely. just height wise.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. I'm hoping. I don't want to
If he wins this fight, we don't know what will happen though.
But we did see McGregor have, and this is kind of what I spoke on before the fight, was when he was using leg kicks, he had 100% success, basically. When he was using that oblique kick, when he was hitting the knee on Diaz, you saw tons of success with it. He threw it twice, though.
Yeah.
And you saw in the RDA fight.
And you saw in the first round of the Michael Johnson fight
first round of Michael
went away from it.
And the Thompson fight, what they did to beat Diaz,
It's
they
time
took
and
out
time again, yeah.
You take out that lead leg. You take out the lead leg on Diaz, and it's kind of harder for him to really throw those like kind of powerful combos where you
and also it's harder to submit. Throw a triangle or arm bar. Right. Your leg's kind of messed up. Because obviously you need those
you gotta
limbs.
Beat that leg. Everyone's got something about
them
that's beatable. And the thing is like Diaz implemented the strategy to beat McGregor. McGregor didn't implement the strategy to beat Diaz. That's what it came down to. What we're going to see now, obviously, like any fight that has plenty of time with a fight camp, is who gets their strategy implemented the best. And honestly, I'm not calling picks right now or anything. At the moment, I feel like Nate Diaz has more strategies to implement to win. After watching that first fight, I feel like he just has more things to bring to the table.
For sure. I mean, Conor overexerted himself, but he gassed after one. Where do we look if it goes into 3 or 4? He can be more efficient, but now Nate's going to bring you in deep waters, and he's going to keep that pace
He was
up.
missing so many punches and hitting fists in there, and like you gas more for missing a shot than just hitting someone in the face. You know, you could throw a super powerful punch, hit him in the face, they might eat it, fine. But when you miss those powerful punches, you gas pretty quick from that kind of thing. You're whiffing hard. But digressing, McGregor's got a tough fight there, but then with Aldo Edgar right underneath, to me, that's probably actually the biggest fight on the card, in my opinion. I like McGregor-Diaz. It's pretty big for casual fans, but the result of the Aldo Edgar card is going to stay a lot of what's really going to happen, I think, with featherweight. If Aldo comes out there and just manhandles and possibly even just like finishes Edgar, I mean, that's a solid interim champ right there, and we may not see McGregor go back down for that rematch. He's expressed he's not crazy interested in fighting Aldo again. I mean, we might see Aldo once again going back to being champ, because if he beats Edgar and McGregor chooses not to go back down for whatever reason.
I don't think he will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he will either. And the thing is, if he doesn't go back down and Aldo beats Edgar, Mendes isn't in the title picture right now. I think Aldo still beats Max Holloway, even though I love Max Holloway. There isn't much in title contention for Aldo, and we go right back to a Jose Aldo, you know.
I'm a little indifferent. I think Aldo's not going to be the same ever again. I'm just going to be honest.
Well, I mean, I feel the same way too, but I'm just saying, like, you know, if he comes out and does beat Edgar, it's going to be a weird situation because you can't hype a third fight between those two when he's beat him already before. So the situation there for featherweight is if Aldo wins, you can make the McGregor fight. If he doesn't, Aldo's probably going to be champ for a while again.
Honestly,
but Edgar's momentum, like you're getting on.
I'm saying I think Max Holloway is the future champ.
Yeah.
Between both of them, I think they're both towards the end, Edgar and Aldo, as much as I love them. I think Max Holloway's so young, he's gotten better and better, and I think he runs that division for the next couple years to come.
That is the boldest claim I've ever heard. I would take more odds of OSP finishing John Jones.
You think it's that crazy? I mean, Holloway's been on an amazing tear, finishing people left and right. He's, 24?
For years? Okay, I could see being champ, but being champ for years?
Holloway's the man.
Okay, I could see him being champ if...
Cain Velasquez is like champ for years and he only fought like one time. So, I mean, that's the thing.
Well, okay, I mean, I guess there's reason...
champion for 3 years, only fought like one.
If the timeline goes that Jose Aldo and Edgar kind of just follow title contention, or McGregor doesn't come back down to fight Holloway at some point or anything, I mean... I could see Max Holloway beating Frankie Edgar. I don't know if he can beat Jose Aldo, but it depends on what Jose Aldo we see. You know, I mean, it really a lot plays right there because obviously I think the winner of that fight in 200 is going to fight Max Holloway. I mean, he could pull off the upset on either of those guys. I'm pretty sure he's going to go into that fight as an underdog regardless. But
is Holloway booked right now?
No.
They should put him on 200 no matter who he fights.
They're probably waiting to get – because they like to throw him on those cards in the McGregor fight. I mean, to be honest –
I would like to see him main event in Hawaii.
Well, yeah,
I think because of all this stuff, how he's kind of. I mean, there are too many guys who don't get title shots after riding a 7-fight winning streak. The least they can do is get him a fight in his home state.
Jose Aldo is injury prone. I can see them throw Max Holloway on that card, and if Jose Aldo injures out, I can see him filling in for Edgar for the interim. That would make sense.
Yeah, he might be ready in this case.
And if you take the interim. you could probably get. I mean, I want to say a Hawaii card, but you could see a Vegas card and possibly a Hawaii card if he beats McGregor. I mean, I don't know.
All right,
It's weird.
Let's move on here real quickly because it almost doesn't even worth our attention, really. And that's World Series of Fighting 30, or as I like to call it, World Series of Grinding, as that's what we saw from the co-main event and main event between John Fitch and David Branch, as they both walk-away champions. Of course, Branch defending his middleweight title and Fitch becoming the new welterweight champion for World Series of Fighting. John Fitch, did he win? Yeah. Was it typical Fitch fashion? Yeah. But why World Series of Fighting couldn't put in an actual welterweight opponent? Instead, they chose Zeffirino, who last fought in that one-night, 8-man, 155-pound tournament. To me, he was already outmatched entering just because of size, let alone taking on a guy as tough as John Fitch. Why Jake Shields, they actually got a couple solid welterweights on the roster. I don't know why one of them couldn't be in, but John Fitch is now the champion for David Branch. Clifford Starks is not very good. He's a nice journeyman guy, but David Branch, I think could compete in the UFC's divisions. I mean, he's been there before. I think he has developed his game better, but David Branch is a pretty elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and Clifford Starks, there wasn't much other than catching him real quickly in the first round that he was going to do to unthrone their 2-division champ in David Branch. And I said it after the fight, World Series of Fighting, besides Justin Gaethje, they don't have much going on. And if they can't produce some exciting guys like Justin Gaethje, I don't know how many more events they can run, because if they're like this, who's tuning in? And second of all, East Coast time, 11:30 on a Saturday night East Coast time is when this fight debuted. If you're trying to get people tuning in live, I don't think anyone was, because that's like the worst time slot you can pick.
It's weird because World Series desperately needs entertainment, and for some reason they picked up all of the most boring scraps from the UFC. David Branch, John Fitch, and Jake Shields, they got cut for being boring. And I mean, I'm just gonna be blunt about it. Yeah, they have nice records, but they're really not entertaining to watch.
Mm-mm.
Why would they picked it up for the notoriety? But I don't think they realized long con. These guys are going to go to the top like Cream does, and then they're going to sit there and bore the hell out of your viewers.
Yeah, if you weren't already tired at 11:30.
I got off work and I went and I looked at it and I'm like, oh, this is fighting. Yeah, I'm gonna take a nap tonight.
Exactly.
So I just caught the play-by-play.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it. Like, even if you do take the
tired
shot,
talking about it right now.
if you take the shot to tune in, you already lost. I mean, like,
I put their fights on as a white noise so my baby can fall asleep
it's
at
like
night.
putting the sounds of the rainforest on or something. You hear David Branch in the back.
Yeah, it was not a good night of fights. Like I said, World Series of Fighting. I think Ray Seville's the president, but I don't know necessarily if he has a percentage. I'm not sure what it is.
He's a Dana White kind of
thing is-
president.
I would make a call to Viacom and just say, Bellator, buy us out. Give me a role.
thing is-
Pay you.
Give me a role as maybe not matchmaker, but give me
Bellator-
something in the organization. Maybe because obviously Cepho has that kickboxing background. Give me a role in the Bellator kickboxing. Pay me some money and we'll sell you all our guys, and maybe we can make a run at the UFC or something, because they're not doing things the right way. I mean, it's already hard enough to try to compete against the UFC, but if you are going to compete against the UFC, you got to try to do something different. And putting, no offense to, again, talented and good fighters, but
Boring.
David Branch and John Fitch are not drawing in viewers, and they're not packing arenas.
I would consider myself a huge hardcore MMA fan. If I showed up to that volleyball game and that fight was going on the other side of the building, I'd be pissed.
I would watch the volleyball game. I ain't gonna
Yeah.
lie. I am not gonna lie to you. I'd be more interested. I don't even know how volleyball works.
I would be so annoyed that John Fitch is over there holding someone down for whatever
Talking
minutes.
about being a vegan,
Yeah.
and I'm like, this is what being a vegan gets you. Is the most boring fight I've ever seen, and he's a title fighter.
All right, let's get to the UFC Zagreb going down Sunday, April 10th on Fox Sports 1. Pay attention because European time, 2 p.m. in the East, 11 a.m. in the Pacific, where this card will start for Fox Sports 1. 6 fights will be shown on the main card. We have a lot of heavyweight, a lot of big dudes, and a lot of newcomers, or at least new, just overall new to the organization. We start out first in the women's strawweight division as Marina Moroz takes on newcomer Christina Stansucci. If I said that correctly, she is making her debut out of Romania. Stansucci, 5-0, undefeated. 3 of her 5 career victories are by submission, taking on Moroz, coming off a tough loss in her last fight to Valerie Paterno at Fight Night 74. 1-1 overall in the UFC, and 5 of her 6 career victories are by submission. Moroz should win this fight. I find it hard to believe this girl from Croatia can beat Moroz. Submission-wise, obviously Moroz has some good submission skills, but I thought in that Letourneau fight she showed pretty good stand-up. I thought she showed some very impressive kickboxing skills as well. And just because I don't know all about Stansucci, I think this is a win to get Moroz back on the winning track, because I think had she beat Letourneau, of course, we all know Letourneau then went on to fight for the strawweight title. Moroz was pretty close to a title shot. So to me, this is kind of a tune-up fight for her. Get her win, and she'll be back fighting top 5 competition in her next fight.
Yeah. I mean, what you said is pretty much just covered it all. There isn't really much I personally know about Stansucci or how Stansucci, Romanian chick.
Barbie.
There we go. She goes by Barbie.
The Romanian Barbie.
The Romanian Barbie. Hopefully she doesn't look like a Romanian Barbie. But, you know, I mean, but this goes right back to my point that even then, though, like the Moroz fight, I mean, this will still be an interesting fight just to see Moroz get her back.
Well, both her fights haven't been boring.
Right,
so
that's what I'm saying.
It
this
should
is like
be good.
The weakest card the UFC's probably put out this year, and it's doing better than probably World Series' strongest fight. Now,
probably.
Going back forward and everything, this fight, I think, actually might be pretty good.
All right, our next fight is in the light heavyweight division as Igor Proprayach makes his return to the octagon against Jan Blachowicz. Of course, Proprayach from Croatia, fighting in his home country, has a very impressive UFC record of 4 wins, 7 losses, and a no contest. He does, however, return to the UFC in his second sit following a 3-fight winning streak, so he is on a streak. He has not fought in the UFC since December of 2014. I believe he was riding a 3-fight losing streak when he exited the organization. 15 of his 28 career victories are by knockout, taking on Blachowicz, who's lost his last 2 fights. His last one was a loss to Corey Anderson at UFC 191. 7 of his 18 career victories are by submission. This, like you said, Proprayach fighting in his home country,
He's so fun.
does have some knockout power. Blachowicz, he has some knockout power as well, as he did knock out Latifi in one round with the body kick. So this guy does have some power as well. Not quite Poland, but pretty close. So he's going to be fighting pretty close to home. I think that's going to bode well for Blachowicz as well. And he knows if he loses another one and he loses bad, there's a chance Blachowicz gets cut. His back's against the wall. He's the bad guy. You know, he's the try to get on the hometown guy. Maybe that causes him to, you know, try to do something a little more crazy. And I think this will be an exciting fight. And I think we're going to possibly could see fight of the night in this matchup.
Yeah, this is actually, I think, like a pretty decent fight. But Proprayach is really fun. I think the last fight I saw him fight was against Matt Yushchenko. So it's been a while. He's just pretty seasoned. But I'm not sure if Eastern European relations and how Poland and Croatia feel about each other. But I feel like being neighboring countries, I feel like, you know, there's a little bit of competitive spirit there. Was I wrong? I felt like he fought Matt Yushchenko.
Actually, well, he was riding a 3-fight losing streak. The no contest was in between. But if you go back further, he realistically lost like 5 straight fights, leading to his eventual exit.
I mean, look what he lost to also, though. Like Rogério de Lima, he had like a little good streak going. Cavalcante really isn't a joke. Gimo, he had like a weird thing going on.
Yeah, after that 8-second knockout he had there. And then the Joey Beltran fight.
No contest by the promoter.
Then he lost
from Joey Beltran.
to Vinny Magalesh.
That fight?
Overturned by promoter?
Joey Beltran, I think, had some steroid issues or something. And that fight,
no way, man.
That fight, the UFC on FX6, which was the Pearson Soteropoulos tough Australia versus UK smash this season. That was in Australia. Of course, we all know Australia's had its weird things with. So it was something weird with the commission and steroids. I think.
I felt like he fought Matt Yushchenko.
Probably.
That's the last one I remember seeing. That was a while ago.
Yeah.
So
UFC 103.
This guy's been in there. He's fought some decent names.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's been around for a while. He's pretty seasoned. I feel like that might be the play against Jan. It's just, I like Jan. From the fights I've seen, you know, he's either been on the losing end or bad end. But the thing is, like, he comes out to fight, and they've been in some good fights. But, you know, Proprayach, like, that dude's got a dinger for a hand, and like when he hits some people, they just go. So I mean, it's going to be a fun fight. It's weirdly enough, though, a good win here by either guy could put like kind of like a really weird Eastern European dude really close to somehow getting to the top 10 in this division. I mean,
because it's a weak division.
It's
really
a weak
is.
division. That's the thing. And it's weird to say it, but then when you kind of look at that division right now, OSP just got the title shot or the interim title shot. So he got pulled from the ranks really high up.
Right.
Who else is really left? Because you're about to see Little Nog and Shogun basically retire after this next card. And probably Rashad after his next fight.
Right.
So light heavyweight's going to open up.
You got your top 3. You got Jones, Rumble, DC right now. Maybe Gustafsson right on the edge, maybe 4. After that, it's a roll of the dice down here, man.
That's what I'm saying. These Eastern Europeans have a chance to really kind of get up in there.
No, they don't.
No, I'm just saying, look, I'm just putting the Pocraeus bet out here right now. This dude's on the comeback, all right? Just be ready for it.
All right.
I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I think either one who wins this fight gets another fight that we don't know who they're fighting, and the loser probably gets cut. So I don't know what's going on with this card.
Tiebreaker.
All right. Our next fight of the evening in the heavyweight division, as the Bear, Timothy Johnson, and that great stash he sports, takes on newcomer from Poland and Marcin Tybura. And he comes into his UFC debut running a 13-3 record. 16 of those career victories, or 6 of those career victories, are by submission. A little less weight, but they're about the same height. I think 6'3". Johnson is a huge individual. He lost his last fight, however, against Jared Rosholt. Rest in peace. 5 of his 9 victories are by knockout, and 1-1 overall in the UFC for Tim Johnson. I don't know what to expect from this fight. Johnson looked pretty bad against Jared Rosholt in his last fight. He's facing a newcomer from Poland. Probably was the world's strongest man at some point, because a lot of these big Polish guys are. So I honestly don't know.
Look, Timothy Johnson, he looks like Dan Severn after the UFC check stopped coming in, dude. He just said, I gotta get back. You can't
decide whether he's Don Severn or Don Fry.
or Don Fry.
Both have epic stashes.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, the UFC money stopped coming. It's like, oh, I should take a couple more fights.
I think out of anything I remember from that Rosholt fight, Johnson did the impossible. For 1 minute, he made that fight exciting. Jared Rosholt
I was there
fight.
live in Nashville. I remember that.
So, I mean, good on him for somehow doing that. But other than that, I don't really.
I mean, I don't know. That's the problem with these weird cards, like where they pull like locals in. I appreciate what the UFC is doing, where like they're going around to different places.
And honestly, I don't know how this is not a Fight Pass card.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's such a weird card where they're like
they almost exclusively put European cards on Fight Pass.
What's her face? The black chick with the big poofy hair. She does the Fox Sports 1 play-by-play commentary in the commercials.
Lisa Bryant?
Karen Bryant.
How she's an MMA fan. Or she is, and she's been to events and she cheers her ass. I highly doubt she knows any of these names. How was she even?
I don't even know any of these names, and I prepared. I tried.
I sit on the internet 7 hours of the day reading about this thing. The thing is,
we see Glory. You bring in a local undercard, whatever. Why is this their main card?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you
couldn't have done any. I think the main reason this is on Fox.
Look at their Fox Sports. It's
they had some decent guys.
That's a good
this
fight.
This could have been on there. Zach Cummings, friend of the show, we've had on. He's taking on Nicholas Dalby.
Yeah.
Those are good fights. Those are good fights, and that's why I'm like, why aren't they?
I think the main reason this card isn't on Fight Pass 2 is
Maribek Tuzimov's on the undercard.
What I
think Dos Santos has a decent Fox following because the first Fox fight, Dos Santos, all that stuff.
Right.
It's the only thing I can think of.
Well, I don't know. The next fight, very similar to this one. Heavyweight with one guy being a debut. Curtis Blades? I'm going to go Blades.
It's Razor Blades.
Curtis
the
Razor
Beyblade
Blades.
champion.
UFC debut, 5-0. All 5 of his wins by knockout. So that's impressive, I guess. He's taking on Francis Ngannou from Cameroon. 6-1. Overall, 1-0 in the UFC. His last fight won his UFC debut over Luis Oliveira at Fox 17, and all of his 6 victories are by finish with 3 knockouts and 3 submissions. So it bodes well. One of these 2 guys is going to get finished, but I tried researching. not only does UFC not have a picture of Blades, not even Sheerdog has a picture
This
of
is
Blades.
how
And
bad-
if that
this-
tells you anything, if Sheerdog
neither does
doesn't even
Google.
have-
I Google
So,
Curtis Blades, and it puts
I have
up
no
pictures
idea.
of Francis Ngannou.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
I
saying.
have no idea about this guy, but obviously has some power.
Maybe that is him.
He is listed
Maybe-
same height there. That'd be 6'4".
Maybe this is him.
So
this guy looks yoked actually, but then you get Francis.
so I don't know.
Maybe-
It should be exciting.
I got a theory here.
Some of these fights we don't know about sometimes end up being.
Yeah, well,
Pretty
I mean, what
exciting.
about that guy from
I
Florida
feel like-
a couple weeks ago?
well-
I said it was the next thing.
I feel like since both guys have finished every one of their professional victories, I find it hard pressed that this is the first one that goes the distance for either of these guys.
I just got.
I find it hard pressed.
I got to put this out here. I feel like the UFC is not just cutting guys from their league. I feel like they're cutting them up literally and sewing them together into these new fighters, and that's how they're getting all these names and all these new people that have no profiles and don't exist on Google.
Yeah,
It could be a finish, and it more likely will be looking at the
Listen.
records. The problem is, it's just there's so many unknowns when you put names out there like this, and for us to cover it, I'm just gonna have to talk out my butt on half of them.
Yeah, we joke about it because they're newbies, but they could be very well exciting
here's the
fights
thing.
or new talent.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I think a lot of listeners also got to realize we joke a lot because we're hardcore fans and everything. We know a lot of hardcore names, but the thing is, these dudes we joke on. The circuit that they're from, though, they're huge names and they're big professional. They're not just getting pulled in because, oh, hey, this guy fights MMA. The UFC's grabbing them. Listeners got to understand when they go places, they pull guys from who are undefeated in their pro circuit.
right. Yeah,
and,
like I said,
they're
if you go
huge
5-0
deals.
with all 5 wins by knockout in the
right,
heavyweight
and that guy
division, that
probably
turns some
has a
eyes.
killer amateur
Yeah,
record
I
too
mean,
and everything. That's the thing. Like these guys are,
Yeah.
he's probably from the Midwest circuit or something like that, and they grabbed him because he's
I think
really good.
I think the Blades had an RFA fight, if I'm not mistaken.
See,
so,
so I mean, they're good.
Yeah, if you go to more local big events, you see it. Like we went to one recently, and this kid had half of Albania there. Like
Oh my
these
goodness,
people are
yeah.
they're in their own right. They are prospects, but I don't think they should be pushing them on these Fox Sports 1 main cards though.
Yeah.
all right. Well, now the co-main event, however, our names you should have heard of.
I've never
It's
even
Gabriel
heard of this.
Napao Gonzaga takes
Gonzaga?
on Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis 5-2 in the UFC. His last win was a fight over Grabowski at UFC Fight Night 82. 13 of his 14 career victories are by knockout as he takes on Gonzaga, the former #1 contender in the heavyweight division. Won his last fight, but that's not saying much, as that's arguably the worst UFC fight I've ever seen in the history of the organization, as he defeated Arokin at the Tough 22 finale. 9 of his 17 career victories are by submission. I honestly thought riding into that Arokin fight, I think he was riding a 3-fight losing streak. I thought he's done. He should retire. He took the fight against Arokin. Like I said, arguably the worst UFC fight maybe in history. Still thought I should retire. Now he's taking on the Black Bleats Derek Lewis, who is a beast. This guy has legitimate power, not only standing up, but nasty ground and pound. And at this stage in Gonzaga's career, he's just fighting for a paycheck. I mean, he ain't getting to the top
The guy
ever
got
again.
knocked out by Brendan
And
Schaub.
I think if Lewis knocks him out in first round, Gonzaga should retire. The UFC should force him because he really has no business being in there anymore. And I think Gonzaga, he probably isn't. I don't know if he's the hugest underdog on the card, but probably, that's Stancio against Moroz, I would imagine, probably would be the biggest underdog. But if Gonzaga wins, I actually think it's a pretty big upset because I think he offers at this stage in his career doesn't offer Derek Lewis anything.
Yeah,
Derek Lewis is a killer. Let me just put this out here. The only decisions he's ever had are his 2 losses against Sean Jordan and Tony Johnson. And he's had some other losses.
And also,
but I mean,
he beat Jared Rochold before he even got into the UFC.
he knocked him out. He's all finished. Any
Thank
fight
you for that.
He's Roy
Yeah.
Nelson. He's basically Roy Nelson. Every fight he's been in that he's won,
He's an
it's
animal,
a
man.
finish.
he's manhandled.
Yeah.
He's
guys,
also been
too.
on the best loss of mine that I've ever seen when he talked all that crap to Mitrione, got the fight gifted to
Right.
him, and then Mitrione starched
And that
him in
Sean
40
Jordan
seconds.
fight was really entertaining too, even though he lost it.
Yeah, Ruan Potts, who Billy hates for screwing him over on a bet. But I mean, he's got
Don't you
finishing
dare
power.
bring up Ruan Potts right now.
Dude, he destroyed Potts. Like, oh my God.
Yeah,
I remember that
So
fight.
that's Derek Lewis is a finisher, and Gonzaga's on the way out. Even though he came back, let's be real, he's
That
been
was,
in the game for a while, and it's just
If he fights that way against
Your
Derek
chin
Lewis,
doesn't
he's
get
gonna
better
get
as a
knocked
fighter.
out in like 30 seconds.
yeah. So
I don't get why. Like, does Gonzaga even have that big of a name that the UFC have a reason to keep signing him for these fights? Because it doesn't excite me much.
Like I said, there was no reason for the Arokin fight, and somehow it happened, and then ended up being horrible. I would have just cut him off of that. Like,
they brought him
it's-
back for that Crow Cop fight. Crow
I
Cop got
get
his
it.
revenge.
Yeah, I get
Yeah,
that.
Beautifully. But I think they probably like argued something like, give me contract
Pro
points,
on
whatever.
steroids.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, Ben Rothwell.
All right. Well, as you mentioned, let's get to that main event. Ben Rothwell against JDS. Looking at Rothwell riding a very nice 4-fight winning streak, improving his UFC record to 6-3. His last fight submitting Josh Barnett at Fox 18, and 20 of his 36 career victories are by knockout. He also has 13 submission victories as well. So he's finished 33 of 36 fights. Looking at Junior Dos Santos, 11-3 in the UFC. Last fight losing to Alistair Overeem at Fox 17, and 12 of the 17 career victories are by knockout. Even though Ben Rothwell has been on a surge as of late, maybe with the exception of Alistair Overeem, I'm not sure if any of those guys are at the level of Junior Dos Santos. Dos Santos did get knocked out in his last fight, but it wasn't like it was a complete blitz by Overeem, or it was trading, or he took a lot of unnecessary shots or anything like that. Just Overeem simply caught him. The fight was over. I think Dos Santos, after this fight, has a lot to prove because of this loss. It's another loss in a row. And Rothwell, also, I don't know how Rothwell deals with the hand speed of Junior Dos Santos.
The thing is,
really,
I don't think he's going to have
to. If you look at the Barnett fight, he did take hits. It was just kind of he was rolling with them. But Josh Barnett's not a huge knockout guy. He's a submit guy. And Junior Dos Santos is maybe the complete opposite of Josh Barnett. And I think if Rothwell has a chance to win this fight, he has to get it in close in the clinch and create a scramble. Because I think if this goes at range, no matter how many weird dancing around stuff Ben Rothwell's doing, you can only take so many shots from Junior Dos Santos, and more times than not, you end up unconscious on the canvas.
Yeah, but the thing is, Dos Santos actually has to throw a shot. And the problem is after he got beat down by Velasquez twice, he has not been the same. And that's the issue. We saw Dos Santos basically die that night. Like, no joke intended. He had a huge rise. He did wonderful, and then he lost dramatically. I thought he was the future of that division for the longest time. But he turned out to be a one-trick pony. He's got good jiu-jitsu, and he's got takedowns. He doesn't use them. And he tries to load up that punch all the time, no matter what. He just relies on it too much. And the thing is just he's so hesitant now against everyone he fights. And that allows dudes to just get comfortable. And the last thing you want to do is let Ben Rothwell get comfortable. That's the thing. A guy like that, he's kind of goofy, but the way his stance is and everything, it gives you a moment to really capitalize against Rothwell while Rothwell's trying to figure out how he should stand and fight against you, because he does like a weird stance to fight. If you take that moment to blitz him then in the beginning, you're good, because Rothwell's still kind of figuring out how he's going to fight you. Dos Santos just lets that stuff hang for a while because he likes to counter with his uppercut. I don't think Rothwell's going to fall for that. And I think Rothwell's smarter than that. And then on top of all this, say Dos Santos does win, this does nothing for the division. No one's going to want to watch Dos Santos fight Overeem again or fight Kane again. Maybe Verdum, but I highly doubt that fight would ever happen. It's a worst-case scenario for the UFC for Dos Santos to win. And to be honest, I really feel like he's almost at the same point where Kazanga is now. He's just going out. If people know how to fight Dos Santos, don't let him counter you. Let him just sit there too long in the pocket, and then you find your moment. Overeem did it with one punch. And Overeem had his skid too. And this is now USADA Overeem. So it's like, I'm pretty sure Ben Rothwell can get the job done.
I think Dos Santos, he has been hesitant against a lot of people. You're right. I think it was definitely highlighted a lot more in the Overeem fight. I think he respected him a little too much. And I don't think he'll give Rothwell that respect. That being said, I think he needs to. And I think Rothwell's game in this even, I don't say he boxed him at all. I'm at the point now, I think Rothwell can submit anyone in this division. Maybe Verdum gives, maybe that's trouble. I shouldn't say anybody. But I think he can knock out any dude in this division. So Rothwell, I think my problem with him is I've totally counted him out every fight.
Yeah, it's a problem. Well, I think, not even just you. I think even the people he fights count him out. But you don't understand. The dude can hit pretty hard. He's got a really decent record. But when you got a guy who's 260-something pounds throwing a submission against your neck.
Well, his technique is good, man.
Yeah, that's
his
the thing.
Submissions are tight. He has that different stance.
Like a lot of guys like Nogueira and Frank Mir, they use a lot of like technique when they go for submissions. Frank Mir, he's a little bit more muscly and bigger.
Well, I think at the beginning of his career, I don't think he was as heavy.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying. So Rothwell, he doesn't sit there and worry about technique when he tries to submit you. He's going to use his weight to submit you. It's funny, but when you think about what he just did to Barnett and how when he cranked that neck, though, he put all of his mass into it.
Thinking about
Well,
technique,
much-
he's just introducing
Much
that
like
to it.
Barnett,
Yeah.
Junior Dos Santos has also, well, he has been submitted once. Okay, so that was all the way back in 2007. He was submitted.
Phoenix,
So
was
it's,
that who that was?
yeah, it was Joaquin Phoenix. No, Joaquim Ferreira or Fajeda. I'm sorry,
Oh, he's from
Brazilian.
Geronimo.
So yeah. Anyways, it's been a while since Dos Santos has gotten submitted. So possible.
I don't think he'll
but
submit him because Dos Santos
unlikely.
has really good jiu-jitsu. We don't ever see it, but it's there, and I believe it's there. I mean, he's a
he
big
trained with
guy.
the Nogueira brothers for years.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, we didn't think Ben Rothwell would submit Barnett at
I
all
didn't
the
even
way
think he
he
would beat
did.
Barnett.
Yeah,
let alone
so
submit him.
yeah, Jim's like, I don't even know what
So,
to think about this fight.
Yeah.
So
All right, let's get to picks here. 6-fight main card, UFC Zagreb. First fight of the evening, women's strawweight division, Marina Moroz against Stanciu. Going with Marina Moroz, I really think she's one of the better fighters in this division. This is a tune-up fight for her, and I think she has a lot of potential in this division. This is just kind of getting her back on a win.
I feel like this is going to be I don't want to say boring pick 'em, but probably a predictable one because I think we're probably on the same page for most of these. I'm going to go with Moroz also, mainly just because I don't know anything about Stanciu.
Moroz, you got to go with the tried and true.
Peprajic against Blankowicz in our next fight in the light heavyweight division. I'm going to go with the home country guy there in Peprajic.
Christ, man.
I'm going to go the opposite on this one, man. I think he's a little aged. It's over for
Fair
him.
enough.
All right, heavyweight, Tim Johnson against Tybura. I don't know anything about Tybura, but I know Johnson has a great stash, so give me that. And Tim
I'll
Johnson.
take that stash any day. Let's do Tim Johnson.
I'm taking Tybura in this. That's just,
Billy's been off the show for too long.
No,
I
the
think you
reason
forget
is-
how he works.
the dude's name is Blades. Or, no, that's the next fight. My bad. This dude's name is his nickname. His nickname. He just drops the A. So any dude that rocks that, I'm taking.
All right. Next fight, also at heavyweight, Nagano against Blades. I'm actually going to go with Blades in this one. I think, Nagano, again, he's only had one fight in the UFC, so it's not like he has a wealth more experience than Blades. So I think it's actually a pretty close fight. So give me Curtis Razor Blades to win this
I'm
one.
going to go with Blades, mainly because Ngannou just kind of looks like you cheated him out on like a pizza or something. You made him pay for the whole thing. He looks really upset. And Blades, I like your idea. He's got that cool nickname. So
I always pick cooler nicknames. If you're a fan of the show,
It's
you
a
know.
very Rick the Horror Story nickname, or
Yeah.
Elliot the Fire Marshal.
that guy's giving what God handed him right now. That was a horrible last name. So because
Blades with a Y. I mean, I'm picking that every time.
you gotta have to.
If he was from Japan, his name would be Curtis Beyblades. That was the
That's-
thing, right?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Or
He's
those-
a Beyblade
yeah.
champion.
All right.
MMA.
Sticking with the heavyweight guys, Derek Lewis against Gabriel Napao Gonzaga for our co-main event. This is all Derek Lewis, and I have a feeling this, maybe it won't be, but it should be at least his last UFC fight in Gonzaga, and Derek Lewis will put him to sleep here with some barrage of powerful punches.
He looks like Akon. Derek Lewis, mainly because it's always just a finish with him. I mean, you can't really just hang with that when you're Gonzaga's age.
The Black Beast.
Main event of the evening, sticking with heavyweight, Junior Dos Santos, the former champion, against Ben Rothwell. I know I usually pick the guy on the roll, but I'm going against that. As hard as that may be to believe, I'm picking Junior Dos Santos. I
Not
think
hard to
he'll be
believe.
able. It's not hard to believe because I'm a huge JDS fan. Is that
Yeah.
why? All right. Well, I just think he's the better fighter. And if I'm proved wrong again, maybe I'll stop picking against Ben Rothwell. But I'm going to pick JDS, though.
The thing is, if there's anything I know about you, it's your JDS pick.
That's not lying. That picture was sitting behind us for a long time.
Yeah.
All right, you just happened to move it. I used to be a hardcore JDS fan.
Hold on.
Oh, hang on.
How hard is it to you to go? Because you go with the guy in the role, but when JDS comes in the picture, he trumps the role.
Yeah.
Oh, he's been doing this every week
There's-
now.
okay,
I
here's the
normally
thing.
go with the guy in the role, but he's been like 3 shows now.
No.
'cause
Okay.
every time I do, he
There's
always
only
gets the guy in the
a
role.
few guys that I actually I would say I'm a fan of, and he would be one of them. And he
For sure.
sometimes
Why you boo?
he over
Why you boo?
the role.
Yeah, no, I love
Right,
Junior Dos
that's right.
Santos.
Normally it's the role, but
And I love the fact that he's going to be on the highlight reel of Ben Rothwell because Ben Rothwell ate the role. So I'm going Ben Rothwell.
Based.
Based solely on that joke.
No, solely on Jim Graham's fandom. I'm picking Junior Dos Santos because I trust Jim Graham and he gets this one done.
You both made mistakes tonight.
Well, we'll find out come April 10th, Sunday afternoon here on the East Coast for Fox Sports 1. So any other final thoughts, gentlemen, before we end the show this week?
There's nothing else happening next weekend, is there? Just this fight.
No. Well, I think, didn't you say like technically the Bellator card happens, but they're not showing it until next week?
Yeah, they're doing something weird with their kickboxing where they're
or is it shown next week, but then it's then shown 2 weeks after the Henderson?
So what they're doing, they're airing. So because people want to know, I guess Bellator. Last I saw their announcement, they're recording and having the fights happen on the 16th. However, they're not airing until the week after on the 22nd. After
the US.
Benson, for the US, after the Benson Henderson fight. So they're not going to be airing until like about midnight, but they're pre-recorded. That's what they said, and everyone I read that with, we all talked about how confused we are. Maybe it was an error in the typo and everything, but being said, they have 2 events in a row. I don't really know when they're going to even have time.
So hopefully, we'll clear, again, that wouldn't be till next week's show anyway, but hopefully
so we'll talk about it then.
We can talk about that on next week's show. Any other final thoughts, Billy?
Everything's good. Glad to be back, man. It was fun, guys.
Regardless, though, we will be previewing UFC on Fox 19, regardless of what Bellator decides to do.
That's a big one.
Where is Colin's kid?
And hey, my last thought is I got that day off work. What about you?
All right. For Billy Brant, you can follow him on Twitter at WBrant21. Colin Camper running our Facebook page, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage Podcast. Please like that today as we are on our quest for 500 likes and to give away some signed memorabilia for you fans. We're about 47 likes away, so please like it today if you haven't already. Speaking of Facebook, our friends at MMA Fight Club on Facebook, the great, excellent blog. So like them as well, MMA Fight Club on Facebook. Subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/Beyond the Cage Podcast. I'd like to thank our partners, AJ Hiller at MMASignaturesUSA.com, the #1 destination for MMA memorabilia, MMAinsider.net, MMAforlife.ca as well. So, for Colin Camper.
Yeah, hey, I'll be on Twitter soon. Find me, but also shout out to
Gorilla the Bear.
Gorilla the Bear, Bear the Out. Gorilla the Bear. Yeah, these are killer drawings.
Yes,
actually. We talk about.
He's now our headline cover of our Facebook page, Adam Nelson. If you follow him at Gorilla_the_bear on Twitter and Instagram, he does this great work. And he, like we said, he's trying to get his site up and running for people to purchase and commission original pieces. But that's one of the ones that he featured there. He was kind enough to send us a scan of that. So
thank you for that.
Thank you for that as well. Yes. And I'm Jim Graham, your host. You can follow me on Twitter at Jim Graham. So for Colin Camper and Billy Brant, thank you again for listening to another edition of Beyond the Cage.